button being
All right. And we are live. Welcome to the Iron Lords podcast, episode number 67. It is another glorious Sunday, and we are back at the round table on the Lord's Day. I'm extremely excited about our very special guest, so we're going to get right into it. I want to introduce a Lord who I consider game design royalty, and whom the ILP had the pleasure to cross paths with at this year's PAX East. This Lord's passion for gaming, technical knowledge, and enthusiasm for his craft is evident in everything he does. And despite his professional stature, this Lord is one of the most humble and down-to-earth members of our entire gaming community. Introducing the design director at Undead Labs and the classic NPD winning State of Decay franchise. The Lord who will always be a 49er fan at heart, and the Obi-Wan Kenobi of video game design, making his debut into the realm of the Lords. My man, Lord Richard Foge. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Good morning over here. Good afternoon over there. Thank you for that intro. That was the largest red carpet I've ever got. I land a plane on that.
I told you, man, we're going to give you the royal treatment, man. You're a lord in your realm, so it's only right we show you the proper respect here at the round table. You ready to get busy, have some fun with these topics?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Absolutely, man. And of course, you know, we have the four horsemen of gaming, those usual suspects at the round table. My co-host with the co-most, my brother from another mother, difficult game conqueror, and the howl of the young wolf. My man, Lord Addict, how you doing, sir?
What's going on, you guys? And for once, Lord King was late, not me. So, okay? It was Lord King that was sleeping, not me.
Wow.
Throwing him under the bus early.
How this man gonna do that to me? And we wasn't even on air, brother. Okay, I got you. When it's my turn to talk, I got you.
Don't worry, King. I had to wake him up. Everybody know Foge got the receipts too. We had to wake him up. And of course, we have our most technical gaming lord, the solo gamer who lives for the single player selfish experience and is also Sostradamus, Mr. Offline Profile Illuminati and Lord Patreon himself. My man, Lord Sovereign. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Doing great. Great to be here with you guys today. Yes, Sostradamus, especially today.
Why today? Why is it extra special today? Tell me about that.
I was on Xbox Live on my Switch.
Wait. What? Was the profile online? That is the key. That's your moniker.
No. I was on Xbox Live on my Switch. So I was online somewhere.
Nice doing that play together campaign.
Yeah, play survive together.
Actually, that sounds like a State of Decay thing.
It does. It goes well with State of Decay.
Yeah, y'all got to talk to them, man. You got to get Jeff on the phone. You got to see.
I know. Let's see if Lord Foge has something to tell us. Let's see.
Oh, wow, y'all guys really. The system can't do it. Let's stop that.
Go for the exclusives.
Yeah.
And of course, we have the Incredible Hulk of this, aka the Excess Gamer.
Ooh.
The Lord of Combat Sports, who is a man of his convictions, demands nothing less than that premium experience, and is the get money gamer.
Ooh.
Damn, that was late.
That was a little late there, King. Maybe you were asleep when we got you up in here.
No, you know what? You up today. You are so going at me today. Brother, let the man finish my intro.
Beloved Lord King, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. I see Attic is at his business early, and I love this. Attic, I know midway through the show that 5-hour energy that you took went out, and you were gonna fall flat. and you're gonna disappear. I understand exactly what's gonna happen.
But until that point,
you've never had this much energy in your life. Something is going on, and we have to check your blood. I understand, brother. What's going on?
No doubt, man. Absolute pleasure for the Lords in the realm. You know what I'm saying? And of course, we have the gaming ninja himself, the shinobi LordCognito, spreading that realness in the realm of the ILP. Not telling you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. So before we get into what the Lords are playing this week, I want to start off with Lord Foge, his video game system history, his career and passion for video game design, and what eventually led him to Undead Labs and creating that amazing NPD winning State of Decay 2 franchise. So Lord Foge, let's start from the beginning, just on like a console and a video game system basis. Like, what were kind of the first game systems you had, and what kind of got you into gaming?
You know, it's kind of a long story. I can ramble too. Feel free to cut me off.
The floor is yours, man.
I remember being at this party with my dad, and it was you know, young in their 20s, hanging out, drinking beers, and I was hanging out. My dad didn't really know what to do with me and my brother, and the guy whose house we were at had an Atari set up in the background somewhere. And he was like, let me set these kids up. And he hooked it up, and we were playing it. And at the end of the night, for whatever reason, he just gave that to my dad. He gave that Atari to my dad. And when we went back to my mom's, he sent that with us. So that was like my first system, was this old school Atari. It's probably a 2600.
2600? I was just about to ask you which one.
That had some, you know, cartridges and the old school, you know, single stick, single button controllers. And me and my brother played the hell out of that, because it was all multiplayer for the most part, right? Like tank battle games and tennis and whatnot. And so we would play that, and he would get bored of it, and I would start playing by myself with both sticks and trying to make stuff happen. After that,
graduate to after that.
After that, I was the NES, the 8-bit NES, and it was hot. And I don't remember where we got that one. I think my mom kind of managed to hook it up after saving up for a while. We were asking her for it for a while, and it showed up like at Christmas or birthday or something. And then that was my thing for many years, through some hot summers down in the Bay Area while the Niners were winning Super Bowls.
That's right. Say it with your chest. With the Niners was winning.
I was playing Bubble Bobble and River City Ransom and Contra. You know, all the classics. And then when I was a teenager, I was up staying with my dad for a couple weeks, and you know, at that point, the old 8-bit action was kind of running a little low, and I convinced him that we needed an upgrade. We got the Super Nintendo. Like I told him, I was like, oh, you know, there's a new one of these things, and I knew all the tricks. To make my Nintendo not behave properly, right? I put the cartridge in a little wrong. I'm like, oh, Dad, you know, the new one doesn't have these problems.
Let me ask you the classic question, the NES question. Were you doing the blowing the cartridge trick to try to get them to work?
Yeah, but I knew how to make it not work too, and then I would get it to work when I finally wanted to actually play the games. But I knew how to make the screens come up all bad, and I was like, the new one doesn't have these problems, Dad. It's got all these great new games. And he showed up after work one day. I was hanging out. He showed up after work one day with like a stack of 20s in his hand. He's like, let's go get that new thing. And I was,
shout out to Papa Foge.
You know what would have been hilarious if you got like a defected one? You'd be like, we got a broken one, Dad. I swear.
Yeah, it was super manipulative of me, but I got that. And it was all downhill from there. After that,
But now let me ask you this question, because obviously a lot of the Lord, some of us are Sega kids now. Was there anything? There was nothing about Sega that enticed you. You were always NES loyal. That was your brand. Was that the deal?
No, it was always a cash issue, right? I'd have had both if I could have had both. And when I had friends who had both or who had Sega side of the thing, I was over at their house playing those games. Oh, Toe Jam and Earl, Phantasy Star, playing all those games with those guys, and being jealous about the exclusives that they got that we didn't get. I'm glad I ended up with the hardware I did. It was a good fit for me, and a lot of those old school JRPGs and action games really did. Like you said, they kind of they mold you a little bit, like what your tastes are. So
nice, man. That's some good history, man. So you go through the 16-bit era, and then did you touch the 32-bit era at all? Did you bypass that? What happened between that transition? Or did you get into the PlayStation?
No, basically at the point where the PlayStation came out, I was at the beginning of my career in the industry. Like I started at it was. Technically, let's see. My first game gig was at Time Warner Interactive, which was it was in Milpitas where I grew up, and it was at the old Atari buildings. Like you would go out there, and they had this hedge that was the old Atari symbol, just kind of in that, and they kept it forever, and it said Atari underneath it. And then the company got bought by Midway, and that was when I went from being QA to working on this fighting game, this arcade game. But
Which one? Which fighting game? Go on,
it was called Juco Thread and 10th Degree at various points. It never came out. If you go to like some of the classic arcade game shows, sometimes somebody will have gotten their hands on the hardware to run that thing, but I wouldn't recommend it.
we can skip that one.
Yeah, you can skip that one. It's not that hot. Lots of people learning lots of good lessons on that project, but nothing. The end result was not amazing. But so I was already kind of in the industry at that point, and I was doing okay on making a little bit of disposable income. So all the money I had went into video games. So when the PS1 came out, I was able to just kind of buy one of those. Right. Unlike I didn't have to manipulate anybody but myself.
You do your checks.
Yeah. I didn't have to.
Your cash flow was good. You was premium now.
It was okay. I make some sacrifices on food and rent in order to get the hardware.
I respect that. You gotta respect that, man, King. You gotta respect that. That's when you know you.
Ramen game, a lot of ramen.
I had that ramen noodles too, baby. It was on that too.
Yeah, it was a ramen noodles month.
My ramen game was pretty solid. But at that point, I pretty much bought most of the major stuff. Like I don't have like a Wonder Swan or anything, but. Just about everything else at that point.
Yo, he's a real gamer, like 100%. Yo, to say that Wonder Swan, that's very near and dear to my heart because I got my color and I got the regular black and white one. I still got mine.
That's classic.
Man.
I don't think those were backlit at all, too, right? So I got my Neo Geo Pocket Color out the other day, and I was like, this is a backlit. I have to play it like in the exact correct lighting to see the screen at all.
I brought that for Sonic and what was it? Not Street Fighter. The fighting Street, something like that. But I got my Neo Geo Pocket too. I got it in camo blue.
Yeah, that's the same one I have. I go up and get it right now.
Ooh.
I'll leave it.
Yeah.
We're talking. But I have the exact same one.
I respect that, man.
Yes.
This is cool. So then, obviously, that's the gaming history as far as the systems and stuff. Now, as far as like you mentioned Atari, and I just wanted to get like as far as like what kind of led into video game design and like what describe that process.
So like the moment that I realized that that people make video games, it was a weird epiphany for me. So like you said, kind of in the 16-bit era, loved JRPGs, and I'd been playing them, but like I didn't really think about it too hard. And then Final Fantasy 3/6 came out, and that was one where I had to be manipulative and by hook and by crook because those cartridges were so expensive. People don't realize, people complain about the cost of games now and DLC and whatnot, but like back then, if a game came out on a big ROM, it was like $90 just to buy the extra memory that was in that cart, right? So I had to lie, cheat, and steal basically to get the 80 something dollars after tax to get that game. But I started playing it, right? And unlike a lot of the games that I've been playing at the time, it had opening credits like a movie. Yes. Right? So cinematic.
Yes.
And it's scrolling through and you see these names, and I'm like, okay, these are the people that are working on this game, but it's all Japanese names, like all the way down, because it's Squaresoft over in Japan. And then at the very end, up comes Ted Woolsey, right, who did the translation. I was like, oh, maybe that is a way, like I could maybe learn Japanese and be able to work on these things and translate these things, and then I would be working on video games. And I love that. And that's not what ended up happening, but that was kind of my first insight into not only do people make these games, but they're like, I thought all games came from Japan at that point. Right.
Okay.
That was my experience. All my Nintendo systems and
right.
things like
you were a JRP guy. It makes sense. It makes sense. Your logic.
Yeah.
Right. And when you get to the credits, you see a lot of Japanese names. I was like, okay, that's where games get made, is in Japan. Well, whatever. I'm not going to be able to do that. But then, you know, seeing that American name in there, seeing that somebody does translation, I was like, oh yeah, somebody has to do some work, so they come out here. And then because of where I grew up in a little town called Milpitas, we were not far from a town called Sunnyvale. Capcom, Namco, there were a lot of companies, game companies, because where Atari came up, that established a presence kind of in that area.
So they were in the Sunnyvale area?
Yeah, and so Sunnyvale Golfland was getting, you know, all of these test machines, and me and my friends would go out there, play a lot of fighting games back in the day. And the Milpitas Golfland would not get the first run stuff that Sunnyvale got. We would get the second pass usually. It's like it's a round 2 of
hand-me-downs.
They would show up. And Atari / Time Warner Interactive / Midway, whatever it ends up being called, they would test a lot of their games over at the Milpitas Golfland. So if you guys remember that old dinosaur fighting game, Primal Rage.
Yes.
I love that game. Yes.
That would show up there, and we would play that. And a couple of my friends from high school were really, really good at fighting games. They would go out to Sunnyvale all the time, do that stuff, and they got themselves into QA at Atari.
Okay.
Working on that stuff, and just my network of friends, we ended up with quite a few people that were working over there.
Okay.
And I got an opportunity to get over there into their QA department. I got in there. I started, you know, talking with some folks that were actually doing the development on the games. And at that point, I had really strong, okay, like there are games being made here. They're arcade. Like I was working on arcade games. It's a weird thing to think about now, 20-something years later. But working on arcade games is where I got my start. And so I was talking to people, programmers and folks that were working on this game, and I had done some QA for their game specifically. And then Midway bought the company from Time Warner, and there was a huge set of layoffs, all like kind of changing of the guard, and somehow I kind of survived through all of that craziness.
So you kind of survived it, yeah.
And then the folks that had been working on that fighting game that I'd done QA for, they canceled that game, but they wanted to make a fighting game.
Okay.
And I had a lot of kind of knowledge about how certain mechanics worked, and they were impressed by some of the technical detail that I knew about, like fighting games. Like it's really simple stuff that a lot of fighting game guys know way more about than me. But I was talking with them, and I was like, "Oh no! See, you can do these special moves not just when the button goes down, but when it comes up." And they were like, 2-in-1s. This is crazy. And but because of my rapport with them, I kind of finagled that more manipulation into.
I love the manipulation theme.
Yeah, you started at an early age. At this point, your manipulation craft was at its peak.
I was pretty persuasive. Yeah. So,
it was the force. It was the force. You was using your force powers on them. Like, yeah, y'all don't want those droids over there. You want this droid.
Yeah, you should make me a design intern on your project. And got in there and started learning stuff. And the producer on that project told me, you know, I was pretty young at that point. I was like 18, 19 years old. And he's like,
wow.
you got to go to school. And I was like, okay. And so he said, at the time, he said, you should be a programmer. And I was like, why should I be a programmer? And he goes, because they make all the money. And I was like, sounds good to me. And
so, he directed you to the bag. I like that.
Yeah, straight to the bag.
Manipulated you.
And so I started studying.
Hopefully he paid.
No, well, there was some stuff through various points in my career where there was some like reimbursement. But yeah, no, I was basically going to school full time, working full time. But when you're in your 20s, your teens and your 20s, you have that crazy energy. Like I can stay up till 3 in the morning.
That addict energy.
You got that addict energy until it runs out.
That's he's about to get on your path right now.
And so I was able to do some computer science
Nice.
as well as the full-time work, and then from there it just kind of kept steamrolling, right? Like that snowballed into a position at a startup company because I had some friends who had moved to that startup company, and then that led to eventually another company and another company. It just kind of kept going, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I do this now.
Now along that line, that journey, I was checking out the resume there.
Oh yeah,
I saw Santa Monica Studios.
Yep.
So I was just curious. During that tenure, like, what did you work on there? We know they have tremendous talent.
Yep.
You know, and also the second part of that question, as far as obviously we know they have a fantastic franchise out right now. You know, as far as God of War, and our good friend we bumped into at E3. Cory Balrog was there. Now, did you ever cross paths with him during your tenure as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Cory and I worked together. Yeah, we worked together on God of War 1.
Wow.
Which was like 2003. So it's like we're talking a long time ago now. But yeah, we worked together on that, getting the combat systems all tight and good. And, so yeah, the startup company I went to, from there I went to Sony Santa Monica. From there I went to Zipper Interactive, which is up in Seattle, and then ArenaNet. And then the crazy thing you asked earlier about, like, what my path was that led me to Undead Labs. And the interesting thing is one of my goals as a designer is to make sure I worked on as many different kinds of things as I possibly could, right?
So that
versatility. Never wanted to be so specialized that I was considered one type of designer. Like, you're only a combat designer, you're only a racing, tuning designer, you're only a content designer. And so I spread out kind of that diversity, that versatility. And when I got to the point where we were making State of Decay, the first one, I remember having this moment where I was like, I've worked on driving games, shooting games. I've worked on some strategy stuff. I worked on combat stuff, arcade stuff, big boss fights, all stuff. I was like, everything in my career has kind of led me to this point where I can work on an open world game that really feels like 6 games crammed all together.
That's awesome. It's interesting that you said that, because while you're breaking that down, I'm seeing parts of your different varied experiences in State of Decay. You know, so the driving mechanics, then there's the fighting mechanics, then you got the base building aspect. Right. You know what I mean? So I'm seeing like the pieces of Foge spread around. That's cool, man. Wow. So Santa Monica. So any other before we move on to the next part, like any other, I know you said God of War. Yeah. Any other kind of big games, or just maybe smaller games that you worked on that a lot of people might not know that you had any type of contribution towards?
So so the Sony Santa Monica stuff, I worked on Connectica, which had a re-release not long ago, and I don't necessarily recommend that one. It's a fun game.
All the games that you're mentioning, like I'm like, like when you was like Zipper Interactive, I'm like,
that's so calm, baby.
That's so calm, days.
I'm like, wow. I said this.
And
I said, this man been touching my soul all the way through.
He talks about Connectica, but say what you will about Connectica, but that was like the engine that kind of jump started Jak and Daxter, right? And then like into God of War.
I'm not sure what the path there is, but it is definitely what spun us into God of War. Like a lot of the Connectica team, and then we had another project going on at the time that got canceled because Grand Theft Auto 3. But like that team then just steamrolled into the team that you know today. A lot of the same there are a ton of people who were there from Connectica and are still there now. It's crazy.
Okay. When it comes to God of War, like when you guys were developing that, did everyone there know it was like a gym that you were going to do for 15, 20 years? Well, the people that are still there?
I think there are some people that kind of knew. I knew as I was working on it, I was like, this is there's no way this is not going to be a huge hit, and this is going to be a big kind of franchise. And honestly, like talking about, my desire for versatility, I was like, I don't want to do this necessarily for the next 20 years of my life.
Though you're smart, because what I like about your decision process is you didn't lock yourself into a genre. Like you kept trying different things so that they couldn't peg you, and that's actually very smart. I actually like that you did. That's pretty cool choice.
I'm pretty locked into State of Decay at this point. Yeah, it's a very broad game, so there's a lot of different fun things to work on.
No doubt, man. That's what's up, man. Great history right there. So then let's get to the main event. Obviously that all kind of must have led you to that path of design director for Undead Labs. So how did you get to that direction and then working on State of Decay?
So coming out of Zipper and working on the SOCOM stuff, I ended up at a company called ArenaNet. ArenaNet works on Guild Wars, which is MMO. And at that point, I'd worked on one of the expansions that they had for Guild Wars, which is a smaller expansion called Eye of the North. And then they wanted to spin up some new stuff. And so I was working on some new Skunk Works stuff that never saw the light of day, but some of the best experiences and best relationships can come from those things, right? You learn a lot. And so what happened there is I ended up, working a lot more with some of the folks that ended up at Undead Labs. And when the time came for that studio to kind of get rolling, I was, still in contact with those folks, and I knew what they had going on. They knew what I was kind of good at, and I went over there not as the design director at first. I was lead designer. Yeah, I was lead designer. I was working on mainly, again, moment-to-moment systems, combat, shooting, driving, and things like that for the first game. And then over the course of that project, the design director at the time ended up leaving, and they wanted to see if I could kind of step into his shoes. And I did an okay job, and so they still haven't gotten rid of me.
You've been doing quite
not yet.
That's what's up. So at that point, obviously, for us as gamers, when State of Decay came out, it was kind of, not well known, and it kind of just evolved into this like cult classic, I would say, like this thing that people loved. And I personally love it just because to me, it's like the Walking Dead simulator, and it focuses more on the, aspect of the base building and communities and relationships and stuff like that. Like when you guys were during that creation, but did you guys think it would kind of, the first one would kind of develop into what it became?
We had ambition for it, and we knew what we wanted to, like, big picture. The plan was always like, when we started, it was a bunch of folks that had worked on MMOs, right? So a lot of the business plan, the thing that we laid out for folks that were potentially going to be working with us was like, we want to use this game as, you want to make it a whole game, but we want to use it to experiment with ideas, to build towards something bigger. And that bigger thing had like a lot of MMO trappings, and people were excited about that, but they were also excited about not having to invest right out of the gate in a game that might take 4 or 5 years to develop, and how much money and MMOs are just massive to develop, and they take tons of time, tons of money. But they were like, oh, but you want to do this smaller scale thing and kind of figure things out. That sounds great. You have a cohesive game idea, but it's still really ambitious. And when we got kind of hooked up with Microsoft, they were like, great, you know what? We've got this Xbox Live Arcade channel that we have that we love.
Xbox Live Arcade, you're right.
That's right. Yeah. So we were trying to cram this big game into a really small space, because Xbox Live Arcade games have a lot of restrictions on terms of like how big they were. Like you had to get everything into like 2 gigs.
Yeah, you guys had that size limit. Oh, that's right.
Crazy size limits. But we got to be a part of the Summer of Arcade promotion. Like I loved that. I love that so much. With the 360 was kind of at its peak, and they were doing Summer of Arcade and all these promotional things, and like I loved it so much. And so when we came out as sort of what was that? That would have been 2013 as kind of the premiere title for that Summer of Arcade, and it was right before Xbox One was going to be coming out. It was really exciting. Super hype. And
that's cool.
You did that twice now. You've been the premier game on that flagship system. Twice now you did it. You did it with the 360 in the summer of games, and now you're doing it again. Look at you.
In the summertime. I like having games come out in the summertime. but yeah, it was a bit of a surprise too. Like you said, like we were trying to build something special, but we're a very small team. I think it was like 24, 26 people worked on that first game to get it out the door. And we didn't have a lot of, like you said, notoriety. We weren't doing a lot of press or marketing, certainly not like this last time. But we showed it at PAX. It was a little grassroots kind of a vibe. People really dug it. And when the game came out and it shot up, it surprised everybody.
And what was the coach, like when it did actually start, what was give me like the studio culture, like how like everybody was pumped, like what was the energy?
Everybody was pumped. We were also really tired, right? We just finished that thing and gone through the launch process, and man, it's hazy. Those last few days, I just I had a young daughter who had just been born like a few months prior, and we were wrapping up a game, so crunching a little bit, and a lot of folks were trying to make it as polished as we possibly could, but we didn't have as much support as we did on the second one. And the second one, still massive game. It's hard to massive sandbox games. It's hard to account for all the bugs and the cases that you're going to run into. But take that on that smaller team where we had one QA person internally, or maybe two, and then some resources from Microsoft, but nowhere near what we got for two. And we had a lot of interesting challenges trying to overcome that. So I think a lot of us, when the game shipped and a lot of people were playing it, what we saw was all of the things that we wanted to fix.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Last question in reference to your to Undead was just like, for the uneducated, right? For those who don't know about game design, like what's like kind of the biggest misconception you think gamers have? And then like give me like, if you can, I know there's a lot of things you probably deal with, but maybe like a day, like a mini day in the life for Lord Foge. Like what is it like day to day, dealing
with? I'll try to tackle those. One of the bigger challenges to kind of help people understand is that things that sound like they might be easier, or if you know a little bit about what's going on in a game engine, you can go, look, I just flip this bit and flip this bit and flip this bit, and it's done. And you fix this problem that I have. This is very present in my mind right now because we are trying to fix as many problems with State of Decay 2 as we can. Is that there's a big process for that. And when you got a game with a lot of moving parts, sometimes you can't just turn something off and turn something else on without it affecting a lot of other things.
But Foge, you're a game designer. You're supposed to fix that. It's easy. I don't understand. Why is it taking so long?
We're trying. We really are. And
plus, I've been told the certification for Xbox is like long too.
That's another, the cycle that things have to go through, because we can't just say, oh, it's fixed now and we should just push this live. We actually have to go through QA again to make sure, one, that it's actually fixed, two, that it didn't break a bunch of other stuff. And then, like you said, the certification process to make sure that all of the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted. You have to stick with that to make sure everything's on the up and up. And so you get these things that can be simple fixes, but they have to go through months of processing just to get out the door. We've got some stuff coming out, and I try to be really careful about talking about what's in patches or making promises to people, because they get those expectations of like, oh, cool, they're fixing this. It's like, we're working on fixing as many things as we can, but I can't tell you when those fixes might eventually show up.
Gotcha.
And sometimes we have things that, like, because of the complicated nature in which things all fit together, sometimes we have things that we'd like to fix, but we can't, because in order to do that, like, we'd have to do months of work in order to get it to work. And sometimes things that sound simple or seem simple just aren't.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been told, because we had some Undead Labs employees on at Planet Xbox, and we asked them about was there any kind of character customization plans from the start? And they said that's actually really hard.
Yeah, with the way we have things set up, it is really hard to do that stuff. But
two quick questions based on the chain of thought. Shout out to Brap in the chat. He's like, one, do all games release with bugs? And then he's saying, and shout out to Rodrigo Romero. He's like, you think they could ever add PvP in State of Decay?
So yeah, I mean, even if you look back at the old classics that didn't have the luxury that we have now of being able to update, you'll find something. You like watch the speed runs. There's the big speed run thing is starting up today, right? The charity event.
Yes.
And every time I watch those guys playing stuff, I'm like, oh, I remember playing that game. It was perfect. And they're like, no, look, you can walk right through this wall right here.
that's a lot. I see a lot of speed runners, especially playing Bloodborne, that are getting on top of buildings, and then when they asked the devs at that afterwards, like, look, we didn't think anyone would go up there.
And it's like how much time is being spent to find them? How many things can you fix? You're never going to be able to get them all ever.
Right. And a small team.
And now I'm forgetting the second part of the question that you asked.
The second part, he said PvP was ever thought about that?
We certainly thought about it, but in the context of State of Decay 2, what we want to be focused on was the cooperative aspects of the game. What folks were asking us for was like classic State of Decay experience, but they wanted to add people in. And what was it before we actually got the show rolling? We were talking about some stuff that Lord Attic found with some stuff that where you could kind of troll other people by doing certain things. And,
that we should not mention.
I'm not going to say. I don't want these things to propagate, but those kind of experiences cause people to hesitate when they say, "Hey, do I want to get into multiplayer? Do I want to invite people into my game?" And I'm like, I don't want people being worried in the context of State of Decay 2 about somebody showing up and like messing up their community. When you get into things like permadeath and the consequences, of that, it's not like I could just be like, "Oh, well, they hurt you a little bit, but roll it back. You're fine. Everything's fine." You just lost a few minutes.
I'm not gonna lie. Kid Smooth got me and Colt into his game. And they were acting dumb, and I had a Juggernaut, 2 Pharaohs, and like 15 zombies around me, and I was cussing. I was like, if you get my character killed, I am done with you guys. Like,
serious consequences.
Serious consequences.
Yeah,
man.
I had Lord Sinister jump in my game, and this guy was setting off firecrackers, and I'm like, bro, if you kill my character, today is gonna be your day.
I accidentally threw a firecracker in my base. And I'm like, what's going on? Because both entrances, they just came rushing in from both entrances. And I said, oh man, I'm done for. If I die in my base, that's it.
That's so bad. That's so bad that I was like, I gotta bring the 50 cal out, man.
No doubt, man. So that's cool history, man, leading up into Undead in your role and stuff like that. So finishing up as far as that, just as far as now back to you again, I always ask this question to all our guests.
Yeah.
So it's hardcore of the hardcore, Lord Foge down. I need your top 5 video game.
Top 5.
Top 5. It could
State of Decay can't be top 5.
He said State of Decay 1 and 2 can't be. You're funny. Any your top 5 video games or franchises?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say if I could cheat and use Monster Hunter for all 5 of those.
Wow.
I would respect that opinion.
Top franchise all time is Monster Hunter. I spent a lot of time with that one. Let's see. Let's see. Monster Hunter. I like the Persona games a lot.
Wow.
I'm playing that right now.
Persona 4, Persona 5, Persona 3. Those are like all-time classics for me. So that's 2. Let's see what else I got. I like JRPGs, and I love playing stuff on my 3DS. So I'm really digging the Etrian Odyssey series, which is like kind of hardcore.
No Final Fantasies?
JRPG.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Well, you know what? I kind of grew out of those. I hate to say it, but like the structure, the combat systems, and stuff like that, they're classics for me, and I can go back to them. And I love watching people play them, but when I try to play them myself, their pacing is wrong. So, like,
what is it? Like you don't like the turn base? Like what is it about the system?
Is it just you don't like the newer direction, that you like the older direction better, and you don't play the newer ones? Or
you know, I liked 15 a lot, but when I'm thinking about like old school stuff and like kind of how they resonate with me as classics, but 15 was really cool. I love the new direction that
I liked everything about 15, but everything about 15.
Wait, what?
I could literally make a whole other video about the problems of Final.
Yeah, he's a
Final Fantasy. So we got those. We got those two. Monster Hunter,
the Soul series. I love. Everybody does, right? You're kind of obligated to at this point if you're a game designer.
Yeah, Cognito.
Oh my God! Here we go.
I'll
be playing co-op game with you
when
I have co-op. I'm too old to be stressed.
I noticed something that you put in that chat. Once you found out that new game from Xbox, the multiplayer game is coming, and you realize that they said that it's harder than those other Soul games, you was like, and I'm out at this point. I was like, wow.
Yep. Out.
Nah,
I don't need that type of stress in my life. I see those streams.
Yeah.
No way.
It's stressful.
It don't matter what From Software says. They can keep saying this is the hard. They say that about every game they make. This is harder than the previous one. And then, I was beating bosses on Bloodborne in 2 tries.
Nah, listen, maybe not for you, but for me, they are really hard. I still couldn't get that werewolf out of the first Bloodborne when you wake up. So
you were supposed to die on that werewolf. You weren't supposed to kill him.
Yeah, well, I tried, and I was like, I can't beat this dude.
So,
this game is the hardest game ever made with the first guy as a killer.
Hold up. Did you really, not even get killed by him? You was like, I'm done, and just turn it off?
Yo, I'm not lying to you. That game is still at the first phase with me, and I'm watching you. I'm like, wow, this guy is so good. He done made it so far. Look at the little zombie heads and all this stuff, the pulsating things. And I said I couldn't beat the first monster and the werewolf in the beginning. It's terrifying to me. Yeah, well, you know what? Somebody didn't get that message to me, and I'm still trying to beat him. So.
I think Neo early on is harder than Bloodborne. Once you start getting some serious stuff,
hard. Yeah. I beat I beat the expansion on Bloodborne. I've been told that's the hardest thing in that whole genre. So
let's recap for
that's why your name is what it is.
The difficult game conqueror. So we got, like I said, so let's start from the top again. We had the first 3. Give me those. Get five again.
Let's see. It was a Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter. What was 2?
Persona,
right?
Basically, the Persona games. Etrian Odyssey, which is these cartography JRPGs you get on your DS. They're so good.
Okay.
And then I came in with the Souls series. And then what do I have at 5? There's a company called Illwinter Games, and they make 2 games that kind of alternate between these 2 games. I really like them. They're it's called Dominions and Conquest of Elysium, and they're basically, Dominions is like a fantasy. It's like a fantasy 4X game where the number of different variables and different permutations of things that they have. So you pick these nations. You pick a nation and you pick a time period. The time period dictates what nations that are there and kind of the state of magic in the world and what kind of resources around. And then you basically are going around trying to conquer the map, right? Either defeat your enemies or kind of out them via economy. And there are these thrones that you can get that give you ability. Man, the game is insane deep. I have to study. I have to study to be good at the game.
Wow.
And the stories that come from them. And that's it's a kind of driving force behind a lot of my design stuff is I want people to be able to play the games that I work on and have unique experiences and be able to tell stories about those experiences to their friends, draw them in. And I feel like I get a lot of that stuff out of the Illwinter games, both Dominions and Conquest of Elysium. They're so good.
And the platform for those that I don't like the platforms.
Those are PC games and basically if a few months have gone by since the release of one of their games, I check and I see it are they releasing something else, because it got a cadence. It's like 2 guys in a garage in Sweden, I think, or something like that, are making these games. They're so good, but they're really
sometimes that's where the unique
really
names
weird
come from, though.
Yep.
No doubt, man.
And you look at the art for this game and you'll be like, no, I'm not into this. you have to look beyond it.
You have to look past that cover art.
they keep the art really simple. They're not focused on rendering the experience. They're trying to get as much of the richness of what's going on in the simulation in the game kind of doesn't come through in the art. But once you kind of see, once you can read the matrix, right? Once the guy you're going I don't see the code anymore. I see this. Once you can kind of see that all of these stories unfold in those games, it's just unbelievable. So me and the same guy that I play Monster Hunter with religiously before Monster Hunter World kind of changed that picture. Everybody plays Monster Hunter now, but back in the day when it was just on the DS, previous generation before World where it was on just the DS, we had to convince people to play it. He convinced me to play it. He's the same guy I play the Illwinter games with, so it's like the experiences I have with that guy, you know, they're some of my favorite
Tremendous.
gaming experience of all time.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Real quick, Def Sing in the chat, they asked if you liked the XCOM or the Warhammer series.
XCOM, I love the new stuff, but I only dabble with it, so it's on one of my on my pile of shame that I have for things that I play. And
that backlog.
The backlog, and the Warhammer stuff, the digital stuff. I haven't played any of the more recent ones. I played the most recent stuff I played was the stuff that was it Relic was doing. Where they have the Dawn of War series. I played a bit of that, but I think that they're probably, based on me talking about this other sim stuff, they're probably wanting to see, like, do I play the ones that have just come out, which I'm struggling to remember the names of, and I haven't played those yet at all.
Okay, I'm curious. Tremendous history there, man.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I've been talking about myself for 45 minutes.
Well, you know what? Yeah, you're on the show for a reason, so let's talk about yourself.
We got to celebrate you, man. So, yeah, man, let's get into what the Lords have been playing this week. So let's bring it back to Foge. What you've been playing specifically this week, and you can't say State of Decay.
Right. So this week I played the main game that's present in my mind is what I was playing yesterday. I'm trying to think back earlier in the week because I played a bunch of stuff this week. Played a little Stardew Valley. I played I played some stuff with my kids, and I can't remember what it is right now. But I try to play stuff with my kids, trying to get my daughter into games right now.
Nice.
But last night, I started playing Mario Tennis seriously.
Okay.
Whoa.
And I tell you what, that game is hardcore. I'm not even kidding. Like,
really?
I think people probably have a misconception. They'll be like, "Oh, it's one of the Nintendo sports games." I don't even. But somebody described it as a fighting game disguised as a sports game, and I was like, "Say no more. I want to play this game." And then I started playing through their adventure mode. It is hardcore. It is so difficult. Like, I recommend it if you. Well, or maybe I don't recommend it if you're worried about.
Yeah, I'm the one that got the stress. Don't like the stress, but I've seen a lot of it at E3, and it looked fun. But it definitely looked like it had a level of depth that I was unaware of.
Yeah, it's deep, and it is like the Dark Souls of Nintendo.
I like that. Of Mario sports game.
Nice.
It is hard. It is so hard.
Right,
I had a friend over last night, so I was taking credit for he would beat the hard stuff, and I'd be like, "Look what I did!"
Nice, man. That's what's up. Cool, cool games this week. Lord Addict, what have you been playing this week?
I've been playing State of Decay 2. I can say that.
We can say that. Yes.
I've been playing Neo, and I started playing Persona 5.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lord Kobatsu. I've been skipping all the school stuff. I don't care. But you know, it's actually a lot better than I thought it was. I still get annoyed by the Persona exaggerations every time I want to use a spell.
That's what pisses you off.
I feel like every time I hear that, I'm like, dude, it's not that serious. But yeah, I'm probably gonna play more Persona today, and I gotta finish Neo, man. Like, it's the same squid that's in the ocean's been killing me for a week now. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I almost had him dead. He was literally an inch of health away, and I was literally saying what I'm gonna do, but I didn't do what I said I was gonna do. I got killed. So.
Did you get Sloth yet? Have you gotten that power yet, Sloth?
I don't think I have because I have no clue what you're talking about.
It's a slow motion power. It's a power that you hit them with it and it slows them down.
I don't use any of those abilities.
You don't use any of them? No magic?
No.
The difficult game conqueror.
Wow.
Not using abilities.
Sovereign.
The only thing I'll use is
different animal.
The only thing I'll use is like I'll use the super, but that's all.
And healing stuff. That's it. Wow.
I don't use the healing.
He's a different animal. He's a different animal.
I just use the typical potions. I don't use any of the magic.
You'd be like,
I will catch my sword on fire. I will do that.
What hardware are you playing on?
The PS4.
And so you're like, I don't use the circle button.
Oh wait, Foge, is he exposed? Is it just the circle button you to do this thing?
No. I'll just like he puts his constraints like this.
Well, it's not that a restraint. It's just like I haven't really learned how to do it. Okay. I'm not interested.
I was like,
see, when I play these games, I'm more about like memorization of patterns than to stop them in a time vortex that they can't get out of.
Yeah. I mean that's why that game after a while can get a little easy if you have the right powers. But that game they cheat.
He's not about the easy. He's about the hard way.
It's about the hard mode.
Yeah, man. That's what's up, Addict. Lord Foge, what you been playing this week, man?
Like I said, I was playing on an Xbox Live on my Switch. that Minecraft.
That Minecraft. You better stop with the commercial. That's what it was.
And like Lord Foge, some State of Decay too. I'm trying to get these Plague Hearts out of the way because they're really. And dude, once you like even the third Plague Heart in an area gets really tough. Like they start coming in from all doors. If you have like 3-4 doors in a building and some cracked windows, like they're coming in from everywhere. So I've been definitely slowly working through that, trying to get some better weaponry. And like Lord Foge said, like Mario Tennis, it's tough, man. Like it's not what people expected at all. Like you knew from that direct that it was.
Someone had to bring up some Switch games somehow in this conversation.
I knew it was coming.
Switch hate of these two.
It's not Switch hate, it's not Switch hate. And shout out to that Mario Tennis, but it's not Switch hate. No, you can. Yeah, I love it. I got it. So,
but you just don't like we bring it up for the podcast.
No, it's like when it has nothing to do with anything. It's like, what about those beers though? Like, why did you just bring that up? It's not necessary.
Why is it not? He asked me what I'm playing. Oh, I brought
No. In your context is right. Right, but certain times you dudes we'll be talking about something and Switch it just walk its way into the conversation.
We'll be talking about a game.
Logo. We don't have those.
It's like every game we talk about, you always switching. Well, you know what? It's amazing, but I like it portable.
You see what we deal with, Lord Foge? You see what we deal with. This is the abuse we get from Lord Addict.
I love it.
So that was pretty much it, Sob? The tennis?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
No doubt. Lord King, what you been playing this week, man?
Let me tell you something. Getting acclimated back into society from being depraved from video games all week in Cali is hard. Like we was around games and we were videotaping games and we were doing all this stuff with games, but we didn't get a chance to actually get into our little niche, our little things. So getting back into it, I got a backlog of crazy stuff. Like I missed a bunch of Nightfalls and stuff that I had to do. Shout out to the Tryhards, my boy Chris. Shout out to the stream team, L Boogie, and shout out to the PUBG Love. So I'm trying to get back with my team and get that flow back. And I'm doing PUBG. I'm doing State of Decay 2 because I know we talking to Foge on Sunday. So if I don't got my game right, I'm messed up, right? Like, and it's like, and then I'm doing Destiny. And the Destiny love back for what they're doing now is so tremendous. It's so crazy.
See a lot of people coming back.
Yeah, we're really out there. Shout out to Relative and Salty and everybody that's on the Iron Lords podcast clan.
Yes.
If you're not down with the clan, join the clan in Destiny because we actually run raids and stuff like that. But that's what I've been playing all week, trying to get acclimated back. We got that chicken dinner, L Boogie.
Nice.
Oh, it was beautiful. But yeah, last night I'm playing with Lord Sinister. And he's like, yo, I can help you with your State of Decay. So I'm like, cool, let's do it. Right? So they jump. I said, how we get you into my world? That whole bring people into your world is so easy. So jump in and thank you. I appreciate that, Foge, because listen, some games like Monster Hunter that I had to get rid of.
Foge gonna be mad with you now.
Yeah. But you know what? He knows what I'm talking about because they're still using the 3DS code. Shout out to Foge. Y'all made it so easy to get people into the game and to help out and rewards that they get when they leave your world. Because I'm in the chat with them and they like, yo, thank you for helping me out. I'm like, what the hell you talking about? You was in my world. He said, nah, I got mad currency. I was like, what? Yeah, so playing that game, yo, yeah, I understand the hook now. I almost died by myself yesterday, though. I ran inside the wrong house.
You gotta be careful.
I ran out of there, and she ain't have no stamina.
There's been a couple times I run in, and I'm like, yeah, I'm leaving.
That's the smart play. A lot of people want to punch through.
See that those are the people I call the people that are on Twitter saying State of Decay's hard. It's like if you walk into a situation that you're outnumbered, throw a cocktail and politely leave.
Yeah. It's one of the greatest skills in the game is just knowing when to call it and get out.
The know when to fold them skill.
That's right. Run home, tuck that
Kitchen doesn't even call it. He'll leave. He'll leave the whole game.
He's a savage. I saw that on your podcast. Yeah, man.
Not my man, not my character. No.
I'm like, yo, kid, I killed everyone. You left for no reason.
That was it. I tried to cram everything back in 1 week.
Man. It's pretty much been. I'm sorry, get fuck.
Post E3, man. You guys have been working hard.
Yes, we've been hitting the ground running. So this is kind of like us kind of getting acclimated. For me, it definitely been, State of Decay. Secret, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that. I didn't know how to do, like, I was having a problem with my leader because I was trying to have, like, to decide which one I wanted to make, and I wanted to go the trader route. And I was having a problem, assigning the leadership thing. And Addict's like, no, dude, it's just right there. Just put this little icon on the floor. And I'm like, oh. Yeah. So I was like, I'm not blaming anyone in the UI.
No. I don't know. Always good to get critique. Always good to learn from people that are actually playing the game. Like, okay, here's ways we can make things better.
Yeah, because the map was yelling at me to do it, and I was like, okay. And then now, I was putting it off for a long time.
He was like, do I have to do these missions first? I was like, no.
Yeah. I'm like, because I put it off because I knew I wanted a trader, and I finally got this chick from another community in my community. So I'm like, all right, cool. She's gonna be lead. I can get that trader skill going. And I was stuck for a minute. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And then I got Addict was using party chat. He's like, yeah, right there, it's the low skill.
There, yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool. So I finally got that going. We're gonna move over to another base on the other side of town. It's got some like almost like shipping crates or something like that. Yeah, so it's actually a nice base.
Since we got you in here, Lord Foge, I do have a quick question, real quick. Now, when you move a base, does it take all the resources from everything that you built and break it down, or do you lose that?
It gives it back to you.
Yeah, you get a refund. I don't know if it's 100%, but you get a refund for a lot of the facilities and stuff that you have built. You get
all right. I kind of figured that, but he asked me that, and I was like, I think you do, but I can't be 100%.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff. I got like 6 cars. I'm serious. I literally have 6 cars.
Wow.
If my multiplayers, all the other people from their sessions are coming, they'll get me. Shout out to Hot Monkey, like he got me cars, and I have so many. So I'm like, how am I gonna do this run back?
Yeah, he's got too many.
Yeah, I got too many. I got like MTV Cribs kind of going on about
Lord Hot Monkeys is he's taking that game to the next level. Like I'm like
playing with him. He's fun. So I was doing State of Decay this week. Just shout out to King Destiny 2 Iron Banner in full swing. Shout out to everybody who's joined the Iron Law podcast.
You got that screenshot of me being ahead of you.
Oh my God, that was. We gonna talk about that. We won't talk about that actually. I didn't appreciate that. I thought my KD was higher, but anyway.
It wasn't actually. The picture said my KD was higher.
Oh my God, we gonna do a rematch on that. But other than that, I've been playing Banner Saga on the Switch. I'm really getting into it. I think Solve, you need to check it out, and actually Addict to check it out. It's a little different from XCOM in the sense that I have
it on my Xbox.
Oh, okay, yeah, you gotta check it out,
I was about to say I got that on my Xbox.
Art style is really cool, and I like the like I said, it plays more like chess than it does XCOM because you move one character, the AI gets to move another character.
So it's like the old Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yes, in a sense, but what's cool is like the little art style animation for the first game. I'm like, wow, this is pretty good looking for this style of game, and they have almost like Mass Effect style story choices. And I'm assuming I believe there's like different endings and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different systems going on. Really like it. That's what I've been rocking. So let's get into last week's poll. The results are in, and the people have spoken to the question: when watching E3 press conferences, how much does a company's presentation and format affect your rating of said conference? The winner at a razor close 46% is yes. Bad presentation affects conference rating.
I saw C. It was really high. So.
Yeah,
C was higher than normal.
C was higher than the Covenant at
Shout out
second
to
place at 41% is no. Great games are greater than the awful format. And coming in at our shallow third place at 13% was I don't care. Ghost of Tsushima Flute Man is the real MVP. So, shout out to all the Lords who participated in the poll. What do the Lords think about this? Anybody can jump in.
Well, it's indicative of what everybody felt after watching a certain company's press conference. You know, when we know a company is known for one thing and they show up lame, it actually is a double effect. You understand? Is because it's turned back to us like, well, they didn't put the effort in, or they coasting now, and it really turned. It was like I saw the crowd really turn on them, and now with that new narrative of they're not allowing people to play with other people, it's starting to form, and I'm hearing a low hum of, oh, this company is a bad company, and I'm like, wow, they turned on them overnight, and they just took one bad press conference. It was weird.
Some presentation, I feel, does play a fact. How do you feel about that, Lord Foge, about our conference presentation?
I kind of have to abstain a little bit from the specifics.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. We don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah. But for me, you know, I love E3. I love it when I don't have to go and present stuff and get on my feet for 8 hours a day. But like the opportunity for a team who's, you know, a lot of these teams have been working on these games for, you know, 3-4 years, kind of in secret, having to keep secrets. It's such a great weight to get off your chest to be able to finally talk about the things that you've been working on. It's out there. People can see what you've been putting your energy and effort into. Making art is hard. And I always love, regardless of like the perception of quality of the presentation, when I get to see a game being shown to the world for the first time, or like getting those details, I'm so happy for the artists that have been making these games for so long to finally get that out of them and to see it in front of the world, because that's why we do these things. We make these games so that people can love them, that people can play them. And so I'm always just really happy to see these things. And you know, sometimes a trailer doesn't land, sometimes, you know, the structure of a presentation might not fit with what folks were hoping for, but man, it's just so nice to see all these great games and to see people celebrating these games.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, man, that's pretty interesting. Like I said, we had that discussion last week, and you know, about presentation and how people feel about it. And I do agree with you, Lord Foge. At the end of the day, you know, we are happy to see things for the first time and just see that, you know, that feeling of seeing something presented and it looks awesome. And you know, definitely shout out to the teams and everyone that works on that. So we're gonna have a new ILP poll at the end of the show, so stay tuned. So since we have the legendary Lord Foge in the realm, we're gonna switch it up. Instead of the topic format, we're gonna bring back the Ask Your Lord Q&A segment and pick the brain of the Obi-Wan himself. So I'm gonna set this thing off, man. So obviously a huge announcement, you know, at this year's E3, you know, Lord Foge and Phil kind of unveiling Undead Labs as part of the Microsoft Studio family. I call it like Phil's Infinity Gauntlet moment. this studio and that studio. Bam, bam, bam. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? You know, so he took over. He took over the universe, man. So I'll be honest, like, man, me personally was so happy to see that Undead Labs name there. So which was also then reiterated by the studio head, your boy Jeff Strain. You know, you guys made a statement about focusing on taking the State of Decay franchise further and contributing to build the world of State of Decay. So first off, like, how long did you know? And then, like, how excited are you, you know, about the future of Undead Labs now?
I didn't know very long before the announcement was made at E3. These things, because you know they want that moment, right?
Yes.
They don't want any opportunities for folks to be like, oh yeah, this happened, and then it starts to buzz out through the industry, and people got the rumor mill and all that stuff. So they want to make sure that their timing is perfect with letting folks know about what's going on, so that the announcement can have the most impact. So it wasn't much longer before that announcement, which was great because it was driving me crazy. Like, you know, I was like, this is a pretty big important secret that I have to keep my hands on.
No, definitely, man. And like my question now is in reference to that same thing was like, now as a result, like, you know, a lot of people I'm speaking to, they're really excited about the franchise moving forward and what that can mean. And, you know, a lot of people say, hey, you know, now does that mean you guys get the AAA treatment? Or the other part I'm also saying is like, will this now affect maybe retroactively to State of Decay 2, maybe with DLC and stuff like that, now that Microsoft's kind of really invested in you guys?
I mean, they've always been really invested in State of Decay 2 and making it the best game possible. It's interesting. Like a lot of people have been talking publicly about their intent behind the studio. Like you can go check out, just jump on Google and look for like Phil Spencer or Matt Booty interviews talking about, you know, the purchase of the studio and what their intent is. It's a wild place to be in where, you know, I have to keep tons of secrets, right? But I don't have to be as coy as I have been in the past about what it is that the company's intending to do as we move forward. It's clear. So that's really nice. I'm super excited about the future of the franchise, the possibilities that open up. Our relationship with Microsoft on the second game was so tight. You saw that with the presence at PAX.
Yes.
Huge presence, great spot in their booth. They love the game, and they did a fantastic job of promoting it. You know, when you look at things like the NPD stuff, which is super exciting for us.
You let into the part. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. I don't think you guys get enough
so
credit.
Just out of curiosity, what was like your emotion when you got on, you know, Twitter and saw that? Or did you know before Twitter, before we?
No, actually, like the report came out and that started circulating around the office. Like, you got a Slack channel, right? And we got stuff that's going around. And it was basically, since all that stuff came out, and then the tweets started showing up pretty much at the same time. So no, I didn't know about that ahead of time. We knew about it exactly when everybody else did. Maybe a little slow in my case. And it's, you know, there's a nice bit of validation there that people are enjoying the game. They're getting out there and buying it, which is fantastic. You know, NPD doesn't cover everything. And so we got a lot of folks that are enjoying the game on Game Pass, which is a wonderful service. Like, you get to check these games out.
Yeah, actually, my cousin he played it on Game Pass. And I don't know why he does it, but he'll play a game on Game Pass and he'll just buy it afterwards. It's like he uses it as like to test all games out. Yeah. And I'm like, if you're going to keep Game Pass, why don't you just keep Game Pass?
Yeah. No, I mean, because there's certain things that you won't get. Like, first of all, shout out to you guys, how you treated us at PAX.
Facts.
All right. I must say, it was, first of all, from getting in from the email to you got to find this guy and you got to do this stuff. That was so fun, and we had to show it when we got there. And you took us into the back of the restaurant, and y'all had the nice spread. Y'all even had food for me.
Yeah,
I remember he was like, when we met that dude, he was like, "Okay, now you go left," and it was like, "What left?" He's like, "Just keep going left."
Yeah. So, and we got in there, and you guys are super inviting. The hoodies from the swag alone, you know, to the love environment. And I know that your studio is really tight because you guys rock like y'all
like
look
that.
Very
representatives.
And shout out. We got to give some shout outs too. Like, shout out to Brent, shout out to Jeff Strain, shout out to my boy Lewis, man. Lewis I think. Yo, he showed mad love. I know he had a part, I believe, on the stage level design, I believe. And man, he's a big Destiny guy. We were talking gaming and stuff like that. And like you said, King, I mean, Undead Labs really, really rolled out the red carpet, man, for us. And we really appreciate it.
I left from you guys after that. As soon as I got back to New York and I got back on my Xbox, I know I was getting the game in Game Pass, but I purchased the game straight out. I said, because I want these guys to succeed as much as possible.
Thank you very much.
And I said, because they were genuine. Like, after we talked, he was like, "Oh, we follow you on Twitter." Like, literally, like then.
That was love.
And I said, you know, these guys are going above and beyond, and they're not doing it in a fake or phony way. They're doing it actually
real
as,
people.
Like real people.
Yeah, real
and
gamers
talking to you
too.
like you won the Swan. It's the love of gaming. No, like it. It wasn't. It was genuine. When y'all was taking us on the screen, y'all had the game right there, playable, and y'all was going through little things with us. Like, this is the part where we worked on this part, and we saw the stuff ahead of time, and we reported on it, and we just came back from that part. That was a highlight for me for PAX being that was my first pack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you guys were a highlight.
I definitely didn't get to play it on the floor because there was like 50 people waiting in line, and I was like, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, no. Cognito and King showed up. They were one of the first to roll in, and it is one of my highlights. Right, I still remember that experience. We're hanging out, talking about the game. Cognito's playing, and you're like, "Oh, look, it's little Cognito." Yeah. It's little Cognito.
They put you in the game.
They put you in the game, right? He's running around. All this stuff is happening. That demo is set up so that bad things happen in it when you get about 75%.
And I said, don't mess with that red-eye zombie. I said, I don't know. It's something about that zombie that don't look good. And Foge is standing there like.
I want to ask you actually something. Was that particular demo set to like a higher difficulty? Because like I remember that being way harder than I played. I was sitting there after I played it. I was like, maybe it's because I wasn't used to the game. I must have been trash when I played that at PAX. Like I was getting tackled by everything. I was getting ate by everything.
Well, it was the first time you're playing, but no, we did some stuff because
they scaled it up.
We wanted the demo to have like a natural ending to it, so we had a lot of stuff that was turned off actually, so that we weren't distracting too much from people being able to go and do their thing. And then it's a 10-minute demo. At around 7 minutes, we turn on some stuff. The
juke comes out.
And it knows where the juggernaut comes out.
Oh yeah, and so we had a lot of people have a really good. It was all deliberate, but we wanted to make sure that people could have those either a really good superhero moment at the end where they take that juggernaut out, or a really good story walking away about getting torn apart.
That's what's up, man. Definitely appreciate it. I remember that. That was funny.
Or you can always just go in a house because the Juggernaut can't go in there with you.
Yeah, I mean, you can play smart.
That's right.
Hero.
No, you should have seen it, Lord Foge. Like it was me, you. It was Sinister. We literally kept hitting the Juggernaut with a car over. We all three was in the car, and it was at night too, so you could only see what was the headlights were on. And we literally just kept circling him and hitting him one at a time with the car.
Oh man, that party, that post-PAX party was so fun. Our communications director, Wonder Russell, she put that together, working with Microsoft, kind of getting back to talking about Microsoft support.
Right.
Man, the marketing and PR for this thing. I was all over the world in March and April, right? March kicking off with PAX, seeing you guys hanging out, showing the world the game, first gameplay, and then after that, I had a week off, and then I was in San Francisco, I was in London, I was in Austin. Yeah, I was everywhere showing people this game, and they supported us 100%. They are so behind this game. They're so behind this franchise, you guys. So the outlook is very bright. My confidence in what we're going to be able to put together moving forward is very high. They're great partners to work with, and now they're not just our partners; like we are a part of what they've got going on.
That's what's
really
up, man.
About that.
Huge.
So the future's bright.
Yeah. So with that said, like, do you guys? I know you guys are gonna be working on DLC and whatnot for State of Decay 2, but do you guys have an idea already? Is it whiteboarded somewhere? Like what?
It's too early. I got some twinkles in my eye.
You're listening.
People are starting
to know him and his secrets. They're killing him. He can't tell it.
I know one, but I would never say anything.
Yeah.
So besides that, though, the fact that you guys are now a Microsoft studio, is there also a possibility that you guys can split off into two teams, have two things going at the same time, or is everyone just focused on State of Decay?
Everybody's super focused on State of Decay. Who knows what the future holds in terms of what we would do, but right now, all of our energy and all of our time being put into, like you said, the DLC. DLC is our highest priority right now, getting fixes and new fun content into State of Decay 2 for players to enjoy, and then like I said, people have, you go and look at these interviews, people have spelled out what they think is going on with us, what our priorities are going to be, and I'm excited about embracing those priorities and running forward hard.
No doubt, no doubt. Let me ask you. I'll give it. I got one question in reference to that too. Now I gotta be brutally honest with you, Lord Foge. You're in the realm of the Lord.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. You know what I'm saying? Now I must admit, no dedicated service for State of Decay 2 broke my heart. You know what I'm saying? I gotta be real with you. Now, since then, you know, there's been patches. I know there's been improved connectivity. You know what I'm saying? But I have to know, like, what was the decision process behind peer-to-peer? Right. And you know, as far as like, could that change in the near future also because of the acquisition? Like, break that whole process down for me.
So when you're making any game with any kind of multiplayer in it at all, you have one of the big things that you have to figure out is what your network model is going to look like.
Right.
And network model can affect almost the entirety of the game, right? Moment to moment gameplay, the number of players that you can get in and support, like distances and things like that we've had to deal with like tethering systems and whatnot. If you have a really big streaming world, and as we were breaking down the experience and we were looking at the audience, because it's a big part of what you need to do when you're at the early stages of ideation and what is this game going to be. You think a lot about the audience. Who are you making this game for? And a lot of our early direction led us to wanting to make the game that people were asking us for was, you know, State of Decay that I can play with my friends. But we also knew from previous experience that a lot of people are still really focused when you make a game like this and you have kind of a split between single player and multiplayer. A lot of people are really focused on that single player. A lot of people play this game by themselves. We can look at our stats and stuff back at the mothership.
So the numbers dictate that way?
Well, they don't dictate, but they definitely give you information, right? And so knowing that a lot of people are going to play this game in a single player fashion, because of the way we knew structurally we want to stay focused on a co-op experience, but also a State of Decay experience where you have control over your community. You don't have to worry about somebody coming in, building something next door that you don't like. We were kind of looking for that experience out of the gate. Once we did that, the server question kind of pushes in a particular direction. Having hosted dedicated servers costs money. Having a drain, having anything that costs ongoing money throughout the project means you have to be very careful about how your game, how your business is making money, because you have to offset some of that stuff. So a lot of what we were talking about at the beginning of the project was, do we want to do the things that would be required to kind of maintain these servers, especially if the game blows up big, which again, your costs scale as those things grow. So because of where we were at, we decided that the experience we wanted to have, the moment to moment stuff that we wanted to do for gameplay, how we wanted that to feel, our emphasis was going to be on prioritizing that side of the equation, and that led us to peer host and multiplayer. It's a complicated thing, right? There's a calculus. You're putting on lots of different variables to get to the end.
So
get at it, and I'll follow up.
Well, what I was getting from that is like you had a couple different directions. I assume that when it comes to I'm not in that industry at all. I have no clue how that works. That it would it would go out of the budget for however long you would want to keep those dedicated servers, and that would just be siphoned off immediately.
Somebody's got to pay for that stuff, right?
So it was either you wanted to take that money to either do that or put it on the actual game, and that's what you were saying, correct?
It's less about like where the funds would have gone kind of in the moment and what kind of happens after you release into the wild, right? Like they're the reasons a lot of the dedicated server games have ongoing monetization systems that people don't necessarily like. We have to figure out how to balance those things against each other. If you've got something with ongoing costs, you've got to have something that gives you ongoing income. And there are a lot of different ways to approach that problem. But you got to balance it out. Otherwise, you can make a successful game that actually loses money.
That's real.
because if the cost of buying the game and somebody's over the course of them playing it and enjoying it, you come to $- in terms of
you could have an amazing game, but end up not having a sequel because of it.
Right.
Well, I mean, you can wreck companies that way, and again, pre Microsoft acquisition, that's something that as an independent studio,
That's what
you
I was
have
just
to be
about to ask you.
incredibly mindful about. What does our business look like if this is hugely successful? What happens?
Yes.
If this fails, what happens? You have to kind of account for all those different situations. Like I said,
Right.
calculus with lots of different variables.
And then you got to take into consideration is that I mean, obviously dedicated service is a big thing in the industry now, but is that move worth potentially hundreds and hundreds of jobs? So I do understand that.
I want to double down though. The whole thing I'm gonna ask again, and I'm glad you're saying this because it's kind of educating me on the process. See, I was under the impression that remember when the Xbox One dropped, that all games that were first party, I guess, were going to have dedicated servers. So I was very surprised by that. That it wasn't part of it. But based on what you're saying, small studios that cost kind of incurred on yourself, as opposed to Microsoft kind of providing this service for you guys, quote unquote, free of charge.
I mean, right. Nothing's ever free, right?
I didn't know that. And let me just finish up the second part. Is like the follow up is then now with the acquisition. In the future, does this kind of alleviate said cost?
I mean, well, what I can say is the landscape is entirely changed, right?
It's different when Daddy Big Bucks show up.
You know what's funny is I always be joking with Lord Foge and the DMs on Twitter, be like, "You need to put some lightsabers in the game." I hope.
I don't know that we can negotiate that with, but this
when I did the interview with Ninja Theory head Nina Kirchenson, she explained that name dropping, right? That's right. She explained. That's right. she explained that the fear of working in a small studio with the thought of permadeath for the studio if you mess up with this game was very real. And I wanted to know, did you guys experience that? Was that because you explaining that you had to balance things back and forth and making sure that this is profitable as well as a good game, and it goes into the thought process. Was it any point that you guys were in fear of that? And once the acquisition happened, the security that comes with that acquisition, there's a lot of exhaling going around in that office, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, the reality of any industry, I think, but I know most from games, is that even with a big successful studio, something can go wrong. They could have layoffs. Anything, you have to always be mindful and thoughtful about what your prospects are in terms of ongoing employment, taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, and whatnot. But as an independent developer, that's making games, and your success is tied to the success of the art that you're putting out in front of the world. It is stressful. I had a lot of confidence. I was never really fearful about it personally. If like what would potentially happen, I had a lot of confidence in the game. I had a lot of faith in our relationship with Microsoft. But there are definitely times when I would sit down with some folks to have conversations, and they would say, what do you think things are going to be like? I'm a little worried about what the future looks like. Do you think this company is going to be around in X years when we're kind of in the middle of development? And as you get closer to the end of the project cycle, you're able to look and go, look, this game is great. It's got problems, but it is fantastic. People are going to love it. We've got marketing and support from PR and marketing from Microsoft behind us 100%. Like, this game is going to go out and it's going to be successful. You don't have to worry whether or not the studio is going to be around in like 6 months. But there are people that, like I said, you got to be mindful of it. You got to be protecting yourself. Certainly when the acquisition went through, people are like, is the company still going to be around in 6 months? I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're not going to come in. Let's buy you and then get rid of you. Like,
No.
helps quite a bit.
So I do have a question when it comes to the accusation entirely. Like, we obviously found out on Sunday. I was told you guys found out on Friday. Is that
Friday.
Did you know sooner than that? Because you're a little bit higher on the totem
chain.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm way up the chain. I knew on Thursday.
He knew Thursday night at 11 o'clock.
Those peons got it on Friday. He got it on Thursday.
They want to keep that really, really tight.
Yeah, I'm glad they did. I'm glad they did because we knew of Playground Studios.
That's the reason it didn't get leaked.
But this was the best press conference as far as that was going, because when we see a company that we are invested in emotionally with the guys, we know you guys, and we see that happen, like I cheered for that. Like I
got emotional. I was like, man, Microsoft is committing to their own, and that was the vibe I felt. And I just felt like y'all just needed that bump, that financial bump, just to, you know what I'm saying, give you that AAA polish and those dedicated servers, and you know what I'm saying, like. But it's just, I just love to see it because, like you said, King, it's just a great group of people. They work hard. The game is good. It's a cult classic. People love it. You added co-op, and it just excites me for State of Decay 3. I'm so excited to see what you got planned going on.
Thank you so much.
Your game's the only game I know of right now that people want a battle royale with. It's like now it's people don't want that in anything because there's so many of it. But like State of Decay is the only game where I legitimately hear people like, I want a battle royale in this game.
we don't even have PvP. People want to kill each other.
They want that Negan moment we got that part. Now let's get to the evil part. Like that's what they want to do. I'm still having fun with my my zombie simulator that I'm playing. That's what I call it, zombie simulator.
What is it? Crisis management simulator?
Crisis management. Lord Foge, quick question about the chat. They're saying any plans for 30 frames per second cap or an ability to disable motion blur?
Like I said earlier, I can't really get into like stuff that we may or may not be doing for future releases. So
we can't get into the specifics.
I can't get into it, but
that's all good.
We're listening all the time, and we hear you loud and clear.
No doubt.
Thank you, David Ferguson, for giving us kudos on the show. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
One last thing on the acquisition. Do you guys get the impression that you guys have said, and Ninja Theory said also that you guys are going to just do what you guys want to do, and they're behind you 100%. But do you get the impression that if you come to them with like an idea for a AAA, 200+ hour game, like huge vast game, that they're fine with any of the new studios coming to them with that, or do they sort of want you? Do they see like Compulsion as the small studio game, and you guys is like the middle size, or do you guys get the impression you can make absolutely whatever you want, whatever scope, whatever size, it doesn't matter?
It's interesting. It's still kind of early days in terms of what that's going to shape up like. I get the impression that I'm going to be working on State of Decay and for the foreseeable future. But I think my personal, and this is my opinion based on my analysis, looking at the conference and stuff like that. Microsoft's swinging for the fences.
Yeah, we go.
They're not messing around. They really want to be on top. And they want to be on top with the best games, the best hardware, and making people happy. So I don't know what that would be like if I went to them with an idea that I thought was worth $1 billion and said like, here it is. It's going to take 5 years and this much money. I don't know how they respond to that out of the gate, but I do know that they're not messing around.
No doubt. Now, the human element, man, I gotta ask you. Now, what about the initial reviews? Obviously, the Metacritic came out being a little mixed. How does it really affect you guys personally? Do you feel like it was too harsh, or do you feel like any criticism was warranted on the release of State of Decay 2?
I mentioned earlier, we were talking about network model stuff. You make a game for a particular audience, and it's interesting because so much about this game is very similar to a lot of stuff that we had in the first game. We kind of try to make it way better. One of the bigger differences that we have between the first game and this game is the number of people paying attention. And I feel like if the first game had this amount of marketing and press and PR and people coming out of the gate, you know, we would have seen very similar results there, right? Like it's a mixed thing. It's not for everybody. Some people get in there and they're expecting a different kind of experience. You know, you kind of have to engage the game in multiple dimensions. You have to deal with your community stuff. It's not just an action game. People that show up just looking for like a hardcore action game, they wanted the combat to be the end all be all. We didn't do that, right? We had to take that complexity and we had to spread it out across all these different systems because we made something that was really broad. Our goal was to make a zombie apocalypse simulation, right? And for us, that meant a lot of things. And you know, we'll get folks that I remember. One of the people in particular on the PR tour he's playing the game. He's like, I don't like the nighttime. It stresses me out. Why didn't you guys put in something that lets me fast forward through the nighttime so that I can just be in the daytime again? And I was like, well, you know, that's a thing that we could have done, but like our goal was to capture this feeling, this particular thing. And the people that are in this situation wouldn't be able to fast forward through the night. They could probably barely even sleep at night as it is. And so
I had a friend that said it was too dark. I was like, it's night.
It's
like,
I love the fact that you guys made it pitch black.
Yep.
I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
That was a battle. That was a huge battle.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, man. Like, you know, there are a lot of folks that that, you know, you get used to what you're used to, right? And a lot of video games, the nighttime is like, it's blue. And maybe you can't see quite as far, but it's not like they don't want to impede. But we were talking about like how close we want this to feel like a survival game. We want this to what would happen in the context of the apocalypse. Well, man, nobody's running those power stations. The lights are going to go out. What is it like when you're out in the middle of nowhere and there's no light? It's dark. It's so dark, and so you're just getting light from the moon and the stars and whatnot. But it was a huge battle, and the art director for the project, Doug Williams.
Clearly, you won.
You won that argument.
I think it worked out, right? We're making the game for a particular audience. You know, did you guys play Dragon's Dogma?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was a place to play that. I used to watch them play that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge inspiration to me. I played that game and I'm like, oh my god, it is dark. I'm scared of being outside. I'm stressed. It puts a real like.
That tension,
atavistic, like
you know what?
Scared, it's primal.
Yeah.
Another game that does that is Final Fantasy 15. Like you don't even go out in the dark for a couple, like 10 hours in the game. You don't go out in the dark.
Yeah. And so like even at that point, talking with that fella about like his perspective and how he wanted, you know, something particular, I was like, it's gonna be hard for some people that they're not getting exactly what they want out of it. Yeah. And but you know, I'm not necessarily here to create something that caters to everybody. I'm trying to please a particular audience. And if you look at the reviews, they are really swingy. Like some people are like,
man, it's all over the place, man.
I'm like, cool. So that's a person for whom we made this game, and somebody else will give it a low score, and then I'm like, okay, we missed for that person.
How do you guys handle feature creep for a title like this with so many systems on top of each other? Like, where do you put the hard stop? Like, no, we can't do this in this particular game.
I'm the king of feature creep. More. No, at some point you get near the end of the project, and or even like midpoint.
The game needs to come out. We need to stop.
Exactly. We can't just keep making the game forever, right? Everybody wants to make something that people eventually play, and if we keep adding stuff indefinitely, nobody's going to get to play it but us, and that's not fun. And so when that reality sets in, what we try to do at the lab is we try to keep looking at scope as we go through the project, and sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it hurts real bad to look at that feature on the wall, and you know that like, oh, so many people are going to love that thing, but it's got to go. It's got to go so that we can get this thing out the door.
But now with Phil back in the truck,
it might be a DLC. You never
So all those features come back.
I did have a question. Was there any particular like features and stuff that was kind of implied into the game but was took out?
We had some of the stuff from and this never got past the point like where we were actually doing any implementation on it. But you remember the journal from the first game?
Yeah.
Yes.
We had a journal that kind of had some of the background stuff. That was something that I really wanted to have in there in some form, and but have it be more valuable than it was last time. Because last time there was some really cool stuff at the beginning, but after a while it just kind of became this dumping ground for all the spam for like what happened with your supplies and resources. And for the most part, players were able to focus on that, and people just weren't using it. But there was some really cool like storytelling and reminders and things I think that we could have built into that would have been fun. But ultimately, when we looked at it, it's like, no, if I have to take that over this other feature, say like getting the plague hearts system working correctly, right? One is fundamental to the game, and one is going to affect everybody's experience, and the other is something that, you know, some people would have liked, but you got to play the percentages a little bit.
Yeah, because Brett actually told us that there used to be like a Jeep or a car that was in the game for the longest times that you would stress the servers with, and it was like really fast, and you guys took it out at like the very last bit before the game actually launched.
Yeah, we have. There are things like people are finding stuff by cheating their saves in a little bit that'll like, look at this thing I have, and I'm like, oh, that's not supposed to be there at all. You're cheating. Now we have to go rip that stuff all the way out.
Okay. We can't just take it out of the game. People know their education. Let's go rip it out of the game.
Yo, seriously, you can't leave anything laying around anymore. People will go through your trash.
Yeah, this is true.
One thing about code, man. One of my last questions, as far as the one thing I love about State of Decay is like the reward system for kind of helping my friends, right? And then like being able to bring, you know, that rewards and influence back. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to know, like, in reference to the co-op though, like what a lot of people, I know I don't have a problem with it. I know when it first came out, like, oh, it's tethering. No, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what was the design process? Because when the game actually released, and shout out to Jez Gordon from Windows Central, and I got a chance to talk with him as well, I felt the tethering bubble was way bigger, and it was like a little overblown than actually stated. So, but just give me the thought process behind that design choice to say, okay, we're not going to let people just run wild and go wherever they want in 1,000 directions on the open world map.
The restriction was, I mean, it's mainly technical, right? The design didn't necessarily call for any kind of constraint there.
Gotcha.
It was basically because of the level of simulation we're doing, and because of the size of the world, the number of things that are going on in it. You maybe have heard this before, but in this big world, we're only really simulating actively the area around the host that is of a certain size, right? That works fine when you're a single player because it's always just this bubble around you that moves constantly. And we tried a lot of things to try to make it work so that people could just go wherever they wanted. But we weren't able to make it so that like this bubble could just split off and we'd have little things kind of going off everywhere. So because we weren't able to make it work, we tried, you know, we put in a system in place that allowed players to get what felt like a reasonable distance without breaking the game, right? And that, like you're saying, there are various points where you could outrun the streaming. And before that tether came in, you would be running, you don't care where the host is or whatever. You'd be running or driving, and suddenly you just fall through the world because the physics aren't being. As far as the game is concerned, the art's there, but nothing else is there.
The game there.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was really a technical
fix that tethering,
Yeah.
But I mean, you would think that's more. Again, you are the master of game design. You are the Jedi there. Obi-Wan. Like, it's definitely, you know, like you said, like it's the world's being created around you. For a single player, I get it. Like exactly what you're saying, right? So it's just like, is it one of those things? Is that a CPU constraint because it's so much to have them people go way far? What's the constraint, so to speak? Is it technical?
It is a combination of like what's going on, power under the hood, and memory. So what all can you keep in your head at once? And so again, I can't really talk about.
No, I know. That sounds like it might be remedied by Scarlet. Scarlet.
Who comes up with those names, man? That's all I want to know.
What's that?
Well.
So who comes up with those code names? Scarlet? Oh my gosh.
That'll be handled by Scarlet. Okay, I get it, King. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that stuff I understand why he's explaining it in that manner, because he said it's a little bubble. Now, if you want to split that bubble per person, then you're gonna tear up resources by them going out.
You have to be doing
now,
double the computing.
Yeah, could you imagine if you're driving in a car and it falls through the wall? Do you know what they would be talking about on the web about this game? So I don't have a problem with the tethering. Actually, honestly, I never wanted to be that far away from my friends in that game anyway, because I'm terrified. I'm not even playing around. Like I see the zombies in the street, and I'm like, ugh, I don't even want to engage with that dude.
Yeah,
I can't go a few feet without Kitsune screaming that he's about to get killed. Like, I can't imagine what it's like to be on the other side of the map. And people are like, "Oh, there's a juggernaut here." I'm like, "Dude, I'm like forever away."
But like, you got to really think about it mentally. If that world really existed, you wouldn't be too far away from your friend anyway. Like,
all that solo mission stuff ain't going there.
No, that's not gonna happen. It's like you're gonna be so close to that person. Like, technically, I'm gonna be shoulder to shoulder with Cognito. That's gonna happen. But I'm just saying, like, you can be like, yo, he's a big dude and all that. Zombies, that bite. I'll probably be that guy that's infected, got to get cleaned up. Nah, I don't want that trouble. So no, I'm staying close to everybody.
I think it fits because exactly what you're saying. Like, in the reality, you would want to be close by, but like, there's an emotional response people have, not necessarily based on the reality, because people were responding to this before they played it. It's an emotional response. They want freedom. They want to know, like, I could do whatever. And anytime you put something in there where it kind of constrains the experience that they're hoping to have, it will definitely get, it will get an emotional response.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes when you actually play the game, it doesn't work out that way, but whatever. Like, you can't control people's emotional response. Of course, you're gonna feel something whenever you hear anything.
People were coming at me hardcore over that, and I was like, I'm gonna shut you up with one tweet. It was Justin Far Cry, and you were loving that, and then they just shut up. They didn't say nothing else after.
Yeah, and what I like too is that I want to give you guys credit, is that what I like about the co-op aspect is how you guys separated the loot. Because I was worried about, like, if we go loot together and someone hits the house first and he's just getting all the resources and then he's bringing it to his game, I'm gonna be tired. Like,
my stuff.
Yeah, like my stuff.
You should have seen all the stuff I gave LordCognito, man.
Oh, yo, shout out for those food rucksacks, man. My community. We appreciate that, man.
He literally kept leaving my world and going back to his.
I'll be right back. I need medicine. You got it? You got me a rucksack in this truck? Okay, cool. I'll be right back. And I keep exiting my game, going and dropping it off. It was funny, but I really do want to give you guys credit, because I love having, like, you guys have the color-coded, separated loot per house, so it kind of prevents the grieving. It prevents people from being greedy. You know what I mean? I really like that design choice.
Yeah, we wanted nothing to get in the way of you feeling like you wanted people to come in. Anything that made it feel like they would be a negative presence in your world, we wanted to get rid of that.
And I do understand that, because we are in the gaming industry.
Yeah.
I would believe that this is the most trolly industry in the world.
It gets up there, right?
Imagine imagine Dead Island. Like, how much trolling went on in that. Like, I know this because I was part of that trolling.
Just finding bugs. Let's I know we got to get Foge out of here, man. We're getting close. Get out. So any last questions for the Lords before we move this thing on? Get them out of here soon. Everybody's good. I guess go ahead, King. You got something?
No. Actually, like I said, all the stuff that I was talking about is really just high praise, to be honest with you, because to actually sit down with the game in the corner by myself and to actually touch on my leisure, I've walked away. I really tend not to listen to the crowd. I tend to go off of my own experiences with stuff, and I want to find out stuff on my own. I guess this as a gamer, I don't live vicariously through others. I live my own life. So when playing it, I'm like, wow, right? Like it's like when I'm in the house and I'm going through stuff, I don't want to go through the fast shuffle. I want to take my time and dig through to get everything out. So I may not play at the speed of others like Attic, because Attic is a serious dude. Like, really, he's
a difficult dude.
Yeah, right. But my speed works for me, and I'm glad that you gave that whole option. Like nighttime, I was really terrified at night. Really, I'm like flashlight. What the hell is going on?
I make Kid Smooth stay at the fort. Like I really do. Like I make Kid Smooth stay at the fort.
Yo, let's make this the last question for the chat.
I have one question for him real quick.
And then I got Sam, and then that'll be the last question.
What's your favorite monster in Monster Hunter?
My favorite monster in Monster Hunter, Rathian. Just a classic. I love, every time I finally get to the point in any one of the games where I get to fight with Rathian, I feel like it's like comfort food.
Nice. And final question, we're gonna leave it with Lord Sam Tolbert, the editor of TICGameNetwork.com. He said he totally understands if Rich can't talk about this, but does Undead Labs have any plans to grow in size now that they are part of Microsoft Studios?
It's so early that there's nothing really concrete there.
Fair enough.
It's hard to imagine us shrinking at all, though. So
How many people is an Undead right now?
Yeah, how many of you guys right now?
We're a little over 60, something like that.
Gotcha. Nice, man. So we're gonna do the poll and outro so we can get Foge out of here. And so the poll question will be: with the recent acquisition of the 5 gaming studios underneath the Microsoft Studios umbrella, like Undead Labs, Ninja Theory, etc., is it too early to tell if these acquisitions were smart business moves? A, yes, way too early. The games must show improve first. B, no, not too early. These are smart acquisitions for the future of Xbox.
Wait for that C.
Well, C, I don't care until Phil completes the gaming studio Infinity Gauntlet. That is the question. Those are the choices. Please rock the ILP poll when it goes up on Twitter tomorrow.
If he ever makes a studio called Infinity Gauntlet, which I think there would be some kind of copyright things, thank LordCognito.
No, he gonna make that studio who did this for you.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Who did that for you? Lord Foge, an absolute pleasure to have you in the realm of the Lords, man. We had so much fun with you. We love what you're doing.
That is the only time I'll ever clap with King.
Oh man!
Right. Those two,
God,
you got those two to
spotlight.
But we're excited about the future. Man.
Gauntlet Studio. That's what it would be called. Gauntlet Studio.
Gauntlet Studio. I like that. Gauntlet Studio. I like that. Lord Foge, absolute pleasure, man. We're so proud of you guys. Winning NPD. Future of State of Decay looking bright. Where can the fine people find you? And what else you got going on you want to tell our people?
Honestly, I tweet sometimes, rarely. At Zombie.
He mainly retweets.
I mainly retweet. Yeah,
you
favorite stuff a lot. Retweet. Pow, pow, pow. I'm probably gonna be just making some State of Decay stuff. You'll see as we continue to go and make announcements on DLC and whatnot. You'll continue to see stuff coming out from us, Microsoft.
Can't wait, man. I hope it's a steady stream of content, man. Yes. I can't wait to see what you guys cooking up forward.
We getting Microsoft Family DLC, a Warthog maybe, or
yeah, they should bless us now.
It's the same people.
It's the same people. Yeah, I gotta get on the line.
I'm tired of Halo, Gears, and Forza. The same people Halo, Gears, and Forza putting every
what the Warthog in it.
I'm just gonna get on the phone with Phil and see what
he's just gonna call Phil like, yo, we need a Warthog.
Dude, it was an absolute honor for you to come through to the ILP roundtable, man. So much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Let's get these outros going on. Lord Addict, where can the fine people find you? What you got cooking up?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Iron. Oh, I forgot my Twitter handle.
You've got your Twitter.
Really? You know what? I knew
it is Lord Addict ILP.
You forgot it. Nah, you forgot it.
I tried a new thing and it didn't work out. I'll admit that. Okay.
You tried it Twitter.
But actually, I tried to copy Lord Jackman, but we won't go into that.
No,
but I definitely appreciate Lord Foge for coming on here. It was definitely a great pleasure to have you on the show. I think I'm the only one here that has put the amount of hours in your game.
Oh my God! Here we go. Difficult game conqueror talk.
Goes blowing his chest up.
You can. I just made a video how to fix Fable 4, so go check that out.
Yeah, please check that out. Yeah, it's a good video.
Probably gonna make. I was gonna make one on Final Fantasy 15, but people they won't leave me alone about why I don't like Fallout 4. So guess what video I'm making next? It's going to be how to fix Fallout 4.
Oh no!
So definitely catch that when that comes out. Appreciate everyone for coming on here, even Lord King. We'll see you next week. We have a guest in line, so you'll see that later on this week.
Absolutely, man. Lord Sov, what's going on? Where can people find you?
You can find me at Lord Sov ILP on Twitter. And what else? Check out that. I'm the king of I'm with Lord Foge. I'm the retweet master. What else? Check out that Patreon, guys. Go over to patreon.com, Iron Lords Podcast. Check us out if you want to support. And what else? Lord Foge, an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
I mean, as gamers, sometimes all we talk about is what we want, and we forget about the humans behind the game. And to have you on here and to talk so frankly and about the game and to see your excitement about what's to come. Yeah. It makes us very, very happy.
It makes me happy too. I'll just experience this art together. Yeah,
got that Hope Buster with the lightsaber coming.
Oh yeah, man, trying to get this licensing in trouble.
He was just like, I think I take away from the fact of our game of a zombie apocalypse one, and I was like,
they just got a bigger budget. He wanted to blow it on these non-licensed.
Blow it on the Iron Man arm.
Look, I got one thing, and it's just the Hulk Buster. The Hulk Buster. How much did this game cost to make? $100 million. It's just a Hulk.
It's just Addict's Hulk Buster.
Hey, but
that's for the licensing alone. $100 million.
It's like you're just on a blank map with nothing around.
Lord King, where can the people find you? What you got going on?
You can find me on Twitter, King David OTW. Hey, check this out. I just got the music for the intros and the outro music for Combat Talk with the King. I'm looking for animators to do the intros and the outros. I got a special little thing that I want going on. Lord Foge, I must say, being that you were actually the first face that we had, the first welcoming face that we had at PAX.
You're literally the first person we spoke to when we walked in the door. You're on the floor. Yep.
I was still on a plane.
And the fact that you even, remember that experience, that goes to show you exactly how personable you are and how real you are and your team is, because the team exudes that same energy that he does. So I don't want y'all to think that he's the only person. No, it's true. His whole team exudes that same beautiful energy. And I will never forget that night in Boston with you guys. You guys actually showed me what that PAX experience is, and I'm looking forward to next year because of you guys, and I'm happy for your success and to win the NPDs over games that were held higher than your games, that Metacritic rated higher than your game. Shows that that love that you put in the game resonates through the community, and no type of hate on a game because it's on a certain system can hold that back. So I do applaud you guys for the great work and continued work that you're doing.
Absolutely, man. I tell people all the time, I feel like a David and Goliath story from as far as, because remember, NPD's revenue. It was a $30 game, and it's on a smaller install base, and it's exclusive. So I still think it can't be, overstated how tremendous that accomplishment is for them to win, Undead Labs to win for that game for NPD. I think it's fantastic, and I'm really excited about the future. I'm sorry, Foge, I cut you off.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna say, you guys made quite an impression on me at PAX. I really enjoyed my time with you, and I'm looking forward to the content you guys continue to produce, and I like the way you guys are approaching things. It's really great. I like your hustle. I like your hustle. You're making it happen. I really like it.
A lot, man. Coming from you guys, coming from the industry. And at the end of the day, it's all about games. There's a human element to it.
Yes.
We want to have fun. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to be disrespectful. We want to bring people together. And games is that common thread.
Remember at PAX, you were trying to do that speech, Lord Foge, and one of your developers was playing the game, and you was like, "Get off the game! Come on here! You play it all the time."
I do remember that. Yeah, man, it's me, LordCognito here, man. Absolute pleasure once again. Lord Foge in the building. Just want to pay the bills right here before we get out of here. Make sure, obviously, you guys hit subscribe, ILP channel, and all the network. Shout out to Lord Cognito. He will get the timestamps up later today. And then, obviously, we had Flashpoint number 20 with E. Bontis. That was on the ILP YouTube channel. Check that out. Destiny's on the comeback, y'all. You need to pay attention. There's some stuff going on, you know what I'm saying? And then also, please check out the E3 Fan Fest. Lord King has a fantastic playlist up right now. Road to E3 and Fan Fest with the King. You know what I'm saying? You get to check him out. You see what was going on.
We got more coming.
We got more
LordCognito is working with my ignorant self when it comes to this uploading. All right. Yes.
Yeah, we got tons more footage. You know, we're gonna start trickling that stuff out. Great interviews with devs, big and small. We don't discriminate just for the big games. So yeah, Lord King did a fantastic job right now. He has a Ninja Theory dev interview up right now, and also, like I said, you get behind the scenes just from a fan perspective, how it is to go to E3, what it's like to be at Fan Fest. It's really cool. Please check that out. Please support. We try to get that ton of exclusive coverage out to you guys. Also, the Patreon really helps us. Shout out to Lord Saul for that, for taking that under his wing. You know, we really appreciate those who contribute. It means a lot. Everybody enjoy their Sunday. Do the Lord's got anything else to say before we get out of here? All right, guess not. Everybody enjoy it. We are out. Have a good one.
Thanks.